Hi, this is Elizabeth Keach, and I'm here on behalf of Urban Times with Nin Castle of Goodone, which is an ethical fashion design company based in East London. Nin, the first question I'd like to ask you is, how does Goodone's ethos fit into the entire ethical fashion movement, and what is unique about Goodone?
I think, well, we're upcyclers, so we kind of fit into that area of the industry. And I think there's a group of designers like Henrietta and Ada and Lou and that are very much design led, that are doing quite interesting products and being sustainable. And I feel, I hope they'd think that I was, we're all kind of in a group together. I think we're all kind of pushing the boundaries. And it's really nice section of the industry to work in. At London Fashion Week, we're always telling each other, oh, there's a buy coming around, or like that person's from there, and it's really kind of like a camaraderie ship together, which is, you don't really get that within other areas of the fashion industry.
Can you walk me through the process of creating a garment, sort of from the idea conception to the finished product?
Well, what we do is we mix reclaimed fabrics with new fabrics. So our aim is always to make recycled clothing that doesn't look obviously recycled, because nobody really wants to wear stuff, or kind of, some people do, but like Joe Blogs on the street doesn't really want to wear stuff that looks old, because it's not really the kind of the trend or the sort of where we are culturally at the moment. So we'll start off at the beginning of the season, we'll see what fabrics we've got, and then we make a mood board of the designs that we want to, because for us the design is the most important thing, and it's about using as much reclaimed fabric as possible with making the design that we want to make.
There was a recent article in Vogue magazine about sustainable fashion by Alexa Chung. What were your views on that?
I think it's really great that Vogue did an article, and that Alexa's really interested and obviously, passionate about sustainable design, but it wasn't very well researched, and there was, I don't know whether it was a typo, but they said at one point there was 2 tons of clothing goes to landfill every year, when it's actually 2 million tons of clothing goes to landfill every year. So that's quite a bit of a misquote, a miscommunication. I feel quite frustrated that sometimes when really influential magazines do a piece on sustainable design, they don't actually get somebody who's really knowledgeable about it to write the piece. And I do understand that it needs to be done in an accessible way, but actually this is really important, and you need to have something written by somebody who's so passionate about it to really get the urgency and the importance and actually the real nuts and bolts of what's going on, because it's such a messed up industry.
I know you've recently set up a factory in Bulgaria. Could you tell us a bit more about that?
It's a really exciting project. We took last season out because we decided that we really needed to be able to step into the area of really mass producing recycled, upcycled clothing. For us, we've been selling around into boutiques internationally in the UK and working with larger companies, and it's very difficult for us to manufacture the clothes. So we set up our own production unit in Bulgaria called One Good Factory, which specialises in making upcycle clothing. So we're beginning to do production for other upcyclers. We've got testing a lot of stuff at the moment, and we also make our own stuff there. But the most exciting thing of it is we can now go to major high street retailers and brands and say, look, we can help you identify your waste, we can help you source it, we can help you design it into your collections, and we've got somewhere you can make it. So it's really handing it to them on a silver plate and saying, you've kind of got no excuse now to really start doing this, because you've sort of solved all of those problem areas along the route.
Right.
For production.
And what high street retailers have you been working with?
We're in talks with a major high street retailer at the moment, but I can't really talk about it. We're doing production, we're testing some stuff for Krista Rayburn, from somewhere with a Speedo project, for a upcycle shirt company called a Luke in Germany. We're doing production for Trade. So quite a few people, and there's more people that we're sort of in communication with. So it's a really exciting project, and for us it feels really like impactful. We decided this year was about having impact, rather than just kind of doing seasons and just trying to do this sort of small circle and selling a small amount to these boutiques. Wasn't really using as much waste, and there's so much waste in the industry. It's just insane the amount of fabric waste there is, And for us, the best fabric to use is something that already exists.
And one of the major companies you've worked with in the past is Tesco, is that right?
Yeah, I mean, we did work with Tesco and Topshop, and we sold to ASOS in the past. We've done projects with Puma and people like that. And from our experience from working with them, the problem area was always with the production and the cutting, because when you're a large company and you have these massive factories that are so streamlined, if you start putting in random bits of fabric into their cutting room, it's just a nightmare for them, and they're just not set up for it. So we're kind of taking that headache away, and because we understand it, it's less of a headache for us to do.
So now I've got a bit of a personal question for you, and that is, what is in your closet?
Most of the stuff that I wear is either from the rag or from my mum, or pretty much a lot of second hand. A lot of our stuff, obviously. I do buy occasionally stuff that's designer, that's not necessarily sustainable, but I know it's really well made. And actually, for me, it's not as good as buying something from a sustainable designer that's used already sort of sustainable fabrics. But buying something that's really well made is a sustainable option. Is when you're buying really cheap clothing that doesn't last, then you're putting it in the landfill and you're buying more. That's the most damaging area of the industry. If you're buying one dress that you're going to keep forever and you're going to pass down to your children, that's a pretty sustainable way of consuming.
So the final question I have for you today, Nin, is what can we expect from you in the future?
Well, we've with this new production facility, One Good Factory, hopefully we'll have some quite exciting projects coming up in the next year. It's going to take a while to kind of get things moving because working with big companies, it's very slow paced. We're also producing a more of a trans-seasonal collection called Good One Is, because we've decided to move away from doing seasons, because you end up, as soon as you've made one, you're producing it, designing the next one, and you never really have enough time to really catch up with yourself. And we just feel like there's so many brands, there's so much stuff out there, it's almost a bit too overwhelming for buyers, and we just want to slow down a bit. Personally, because we've been doing it for seasons, and it's just too much when we want to do other project work which actually can have more impact. So we're doing kind of trans-seasonal collection, which is kind of all of our best bits and developing it and adding new things to it all the time, and that's going to be available to buy in shops and also on the website.